90 to 92. The Gerry Ryan Show, Monday to Friday, 9 till 12 on 2FM.
Love is a many splendid thing. It makes the world go round. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love sees no faults. Perhaps because love is blind. Love conquers all. All you need is love. In the words of Ewan McGregor. Isn't that true, Jenny Houston?
Yes.
Yes. And you've been looking at the Lover's Book for the Ryan Show and all that's sailing her in anticipation of St. Valentine's Day. So just what will lovers find between these covers? Actually, I think I recognise that is part of the boys' book and the girls' book. And
You're exactly right.
Great series.
Spot on. Yeah, exactly. It's the Best at Everything series, is I think what they call it.
You're turning up your headphones there?
Sorry, I'm half deaf.
Love is a set of headphones that works.
Yeah, the Lover's Book for the lover who's best at everything is its full title. And basically what it's saying is the lover who's best at everything knows that the best way to charm the other half is with thoughtful gestures tailored to their soulmate's idiosyncrasies. And the whole thing of that you're in the best position to do nice things and be thoughtful towards the person you're with because you should know them best. And that every now and then, even the best lovers need a little inspiration for romantic deeds. And the whole notion of this book is to kind of, without being twee, but to celebrate love and to kind of give tips on keeping it alive and keeping it going,
Well, can I ask, is it contemporary? Is it something that's just been written? Or is it another one of these Mrs. Baldwin's Boudoir Tips 1912?
It's a combination of all of the above. They've got everything from, examples from the silver screen or, they would mention people like Cleopatra and whatever. They go through the ages and the Grecians and everybody, as well as doing all the modern day ones. So you get quotes about people like Pierce Brosnan and Michelle Pfeiffer, as well as sort of they go through all the poets. Like it's sort of like the top 10 films, 10 best gifts, best city breaks, best romantic novels, the history of St. Valentine. I mean, it kind of goes through it all. So it's very much one of those, I always think of them as bathroom books, in the sense of curiosity, but then that seems wrong.
When you're
and
sitting
disrespectful.
upon the throne, you can dip into it, perchance to dream.
But I sound like, geez, is it obvious that I'm single coming up to Valentine's Day? I think, when you're single, you're a little bit more cynical about all things lovey.
Love yourself, Jenny, is what I say.
Yeah, in the Woody Allen
and
style.
let somebody watch. Now, well, actually, Pierce Brosnan, I'd be interested what Pierce has to say. Of course, we know what Cleopatra, she bathed her ass in milk, or was it she bathed in ass's milk? I'm not.
There was milk and honey and things like that, and I don't know. I think she had probably a lot of lovers, really. But
also, apparently, dramatically ugly.
Really?
Yeah, I think history has...
Is that why they created makeup for Cleopatra?
History gives us the impression... Bald, apparently, and extremely ugly. Charcoal makeup and all this kind of stuff. A powerful woman, though, you see.
Well, if the same applies in history to women as it does now to men, there's an awful lot of funny-looking men with very good-looking young partners.
Are you thinking of anybody in particular?
No, I'm thinking of any man with money these days, really. And I'm always still...
These days, darling.
I know.
It's always been like that.
Cleopatra obviously had money and power. And
Mark Antony had the Fifth Legion, I think, and a very, very short tunic.
Did he have great thighs?
He had great thighs. You know that for the Romans, for the field commanders, the shorter the tunic, it showed that you were higher up in the legion's pecking order.
Well, I approve
so
of that. Yeah, I pecking order. Is that where it came from? Is that where pecking order came from? Literally?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Probably not. I just made that up.
Well, I like it.
True, though, isn't it? Okay, where are we going to start?
Okay, well, we're going to start with the couple that plays together stays together.
Okay.
And I think, as somebody, who's been in a relationship a long time, I think you'd have to say that that's probably true. And I remember listening to the programme yesterday, and there was a caller on it about their husband who went to the pub all the time and dissatisfaction around that.
7 nights a week.
Yeah. And I think the whole thing is that when you have fun together, that's bound to keep a relationship going much more than people who don't have fun together. And it doesn't sound like they're having much crack together at the moment. And
no, that was in fact a very sad story because there was nothing abusive about the relationship. It was just a relationship that was kind of burning out.
Slightly neglectful, though.
Children were gone. She was very dissatisfied, unhappy, and at home and alone. And he was just going to the pub. Nothing phenomenal in what he was doing. There was no
not vicious or unkind. Just maybe
no no great self-improvement either, for that matter.
No.
It wasn't as if he was phoning from Washington, D.C. saying, darling, the bill to free the slaves is going through today. I'll be back next year. It wasn't that.
Yeah.
So it was just awful, actually. It was so awful. And I wonder if a little more play would have made their day.
Well, I absolutely think so. I think any successful relationship I can see are the people who still have mischief together. I think it's that whole thing of occasionally, I mean, we're Irish, so we can say it, you know, getting pissed together can be fantastic. And so if you're going to the pub every so often, I mean, you certainly don't want to be doing it every single night, besides the fact that it costs a fortune and it's very bad for your health. I'm sure it's not great for your work productivity either. But I mean, to get...
It's very sensible of you, Jane.
Yeah, well, I mean, but getting pissed together or just going out having the crack together, you don't have to be a drinker, but just having fun
But you know,
together.
you have to do that.
Messing.
You have to be very deliberate about that. And you
Yeah.
have to set aside days for doing it. And you have to say, this is what we're going to do. On Wednesday, we're going to do this. And then on Friday, we're going to do that. And just 2 days a week, even 1 day a week, it's definitely going to happen. And you have to drop everything else to do it. And there better be a damn good excuse for anything other than doing that. If you don't plan that, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah, and you just have to have the time to be in each other's company in a way that isn't talking about the chores, the bills, the kids, the whatever, so that you can actually just laugh. Because I think laughter is the key. And I mean, the whole thing is that a relationship isn't just wonderful because the romance. Fun has a lot to do with it too. And you have to remind each other of why you fell in love in the first place. And I think that's what happens when you have fun together. Michelle Pfeiffer is married to TV producer David E. Kelly. And she says, we tend to our marriage. You have to spend time away from the kids and stay up late and talk, go to the movies or do the crossword puzzle together. My husband and I still have date nights and I look forward to them all week.
She was originally, of course, married to Alec Baldwin, wasn't she? Wasn't Michelle Pfeiffer married
Was
to him?
she? Kim Basinger was
Oh,
married.
no, sorry, Kim
Yeah,
Basinger. Yeah. Is she still married to Alec Baldwin?
No.
No.
But Michelle Pfeiffer is still married to David E. Kelly.
For how long, I wonder, has
I
that
think
gone
they're
on?
together ages and ages because he's the one behind Ally McBeal, and that was ages ago. So I just, you know, I mean, that's the whole thing is the fact that she acknowledges that they tend to their marriage. And I think that's the whole thing is that you have to, it's like all those cliches, you have to water the garden for the flowers to bloom. I can't take myself seriously.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but it sounds great.
So with that, the couple that plays together stays together. I've got top 10 date ideas.
Let's hear them.
I don't even have to go through all 10, but the good ones, because some of them I think are cheesy. But taking a hike, and I mean, we're not talking necessarily Croagh Patrick, but, you know, be it a romantic stroll or a 10-mile ramble, relish the two of you being at one with nature. One couple opted for an extreme type of hiking togetherness when they embarked on a 2007 quest to tackle Scotland's 284 Munros, which are the mountains over 3,000 feet high, completely in the nude. And at the time of the books being published, they'd completed 15 of them.
And they would do this completely in the nude.
Completely nude.
That would be, well, apart from it being
I'd be shy.
quite odd.
Yeah.
It's just very cold, I would think.
Yeah, Scotland as well. I mean, I think the whole thing is that, you know, I remember even at Christmas time.
Oh, that's perversion, that is.
Yeah, I was thinking, you know, when I go to Kilkenny at Christmas, we always go for walks in Jenkintown Wood. You know, I'm with my mum and Jane and the family friends that always stay with us at Christmas. And every single time I'm there, I go, God, it'd be great to come here with a boyfriend, you know, because it's just being sort of, you know, tree covered, you know, and the leaves between your feet. And, you know, it's just so nice to be in the crisp, cold air, whether it's spring, summer or winter. But to go for a walk and sort of feel like you're alone somewhere is great. And you automatically sort of romance starts swimming around your brain. So I think, you know, going for a walk is a good one.
Sex in the open air?
That exactly. There's so many different options.
Mind you, in Scotland, that mightn't be a runner.
Yeah, I mean, the other one that...
You might not rise to that peak.
People are talking about, you know, they talk about things like going to a jazz club. I mean, that maybe is a bit more American. I don't know how many jazz clubs we have or...
Also, I can't really see how that would increase your libido or your sense of romance or anything.
I think it's just like that chilled out vibe over dinner, just kind of, you know, nice things to do together, dancing the night away, going on a wine tasting in a vineyard, or if your partner thinks wine is poncy, go on beer tasting, or, you know, the different times of year where it's Beer Fest, Oktoberfest and things like that.
Have you ever been at anything like that, have you?
Absolutely, they're great crack.
Really? Would you go with a fella to a beer festival?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
crack?
well, it could be fun. I think you'd have to leave at a certain point. It would just be messiness, but it could be really good fun. And wine tasting is good fun. You just have to. I don't know.
I think it's one of the great challenges, though. You know, to a meal, just even a meal. There's so many people now who cannot go out for a meal, not because they're short on funds, but because they couldn't sit with the person who they live with.
They have nothing to say to each other.
Nothing to say to them.
See, that actually gives me chills down my spine when I go to a pub and you see a couple sitting there, both staring ahead, and they both have their glass and they're not speaking to each other, and the whole night passes like that. It actually breaks
that
my
couple
heart.
in the restaurant, even if you've gone there by yourself, you're still having a better time, because the
it's
couple
awful.
who are looking over one another's shoulders, and maybe just once in an hour, one goes, "Do you want dessert?" "No, neither do I." And that's it. That's the whole evening.
It's just bleak. It's
You really
beyond
do
bleak.
have to say why have they gone out in the first
But
place?
the thing is that if you're doing that, if you're only tending to things, if you're only having fun together or trying to have fun together once a year, you're not really going to have a great crack on your annual, pre-booked 3 seatings on Valentine's Day, But it's that thing of, doing some exercise together, besides the fact that exercise releases all those feel-good chemicals like endorphins, which are the same kind of things that, they make you feel good anyway. And then you're having fun with your partner, doing a sweat.
One of the
feeling proud
Operation
yourself.
Transformation leaders, I think it's Evelyn, she has taken on the climb. She's, I think, what did she do? Was it Croagh-Patrick or the Sugarloaf? I think it was the Sugarloaf.
I saw that. She went with
her
her partner.
And something, apart from it being, a physical challenge that was part and parcel of the programme, I think it really brought them closer together.
But they were giggling. I mean, they were
Yeah.
both panting and dying and laughing at themselves and laughing at the struggle. But then when they did it, they were both so proud of themselves. And as you say, they did it together. And I thought that's wonderful. And it's a great example of, getting off the couch. I mean, getting on the couch can be great fun too if you're doing it together and the kids were asleep. But I think that's the whole thing, is that you have to do the things that kind of stir it up a little.
Or go to a friend's house, and when they're in a different room, have it off in the other room.
Absolutely.
It'll add to the tension.
Absolutely.
The excitement will be unbelievable.
And they list some of the actions guaranteed to sweep your lover off their feet every single time. And this is the best one, I think. Embrace them in a Hollywood kiss. Bend them backwards and swoop in for a snog. And to be honest, nothing would impress you more than literally somebody sort of bending you backwards. You're slightly off balance. You're slightly terrified. You're half thinking they're going to drop you. And then they kiss you. And it's great. The excitement of it, the whole thing. Brilliant. And when was the last time you did that for your husband or wife?
And tell me this, the kissing, when he...
The kissing.
What?
Well, I mean, there's a few things
because
actually.
This, the spur of the moment kissing is the most dangerous kissing on the planet, because you have to get it right. If you go in there and you start pulling the lips off or biting her nose or something like that, it's not going to work, or grinding yourself onto her. Come on, you tell me, you're a woman. What do you do?
Gerry, I mean, if this is somebody you've been married to or with for a very long time, so you should know the way that they like to be kissed the best.
You see,
and just never forget the back of the neck, I think, is key as well. But there's the passage...
pulling the hair. Okay, that's for later. That's too advanced, isn't it?
Hi, honey, I'm home, says, never stint on that greeting kiss. And I think this is a great tip. No matter where you're rushing off to later that evening, or how many kids you've got to feed and bathe in the next hour, take a luxurious moment to embrace your lover and give them a lingering kiss. So
now that does sound like something from 1912, doesn't it? That's one of those.
But it's
ladies,
really
it's important that the
nice.
children be washed and fed and put to bed before your beloved comes home.
Well, the point being is that in our day-to-day grind, there's a load of really boring, tedious things that we have to do, and there's no point in pretending that they don't creep into a marriage or a long-term relationship. But I think that's really good to remember to really kiss your partner instead of that mwah kind of thing, like you're kissing out of obligation, mwah, whatever, goodbye, good night, to actually do it and mean it. And if you did that more often, what an effect that might have, a little...
And don't air kiss your partner.
That's awful. And smile is the other one. Give your partner at least one truly heartfelt smile every day. Let it stretch across your face and reach the furthest corners of your eyes when looking deep into your lover's eyes. That's very romantic, isn't it?
That's fabulous.
Another, Jeremy Taylor says, love is a friendship set on fire.
That's a great description. It's something, well, it's certainly something, it's a description that's it's a place to aim for.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nicholas Sparks, this one I think is particularly good. Love is more than 3 words mumbled before bedtime. Love is sustained by action, a pattern of devotion in the things we do for each other every day. Very nice, isn't it? So I think that's the thing, is that the big romantic gestures are undeniably great. And we're talking about this because it's Valentine's Day tomorrow. But the whole thing is, it's the little things that you do, the everyday acts are just as important, and more so, I think, than those special events organised well in advance. And giving somebody breakfast in bed on your anniversary or on Valentine's Day, they might expect it, or Mother's Day or Father's Day or whatever. They might think there's a chance you might make an effort on those 3 days a year. So I think it's when you make an effort on those every other day of the year.
Yeah, flowers are not for Valentine's Day.
No.
Flowers are not for birthdays. Flowers
And
are
they're not for
when
I'm sorry.
you least expect it. They're
Yeah.
certainly not for I'm sorry.
No, if you want flowers, chucked in a bin very quickly. Yeah.
Okay, stay with us. We'll be back with Pierce Brosnan bringing his wife breakfast in bed.
Yes.
And of course, some tabloids have been very cruel in saying that he brings her too much breakfast in bed. Jenny Houston's in studio, and she's quoting from a book that she's, I think, thoroughly enjoying, The Lover's Book, in anticipation for St. Valentine's Day. This is from the same people that bring you the girls' book of everything and the boys' book of everything. And
The best series.
Pierce Brosnan, who still brings Keely breakfast in bed with a rose, apparently, from the garden.
Yeah, he says, I love romance. I bring Keely breakfast in bed on a tray with a single flower from our garden. I did that when we first started dating, and I still do it. But that's pretty lovely.
Does he do it every day?
I doubt he's able to every day, but I mean, if James Bond, I think most people would be quite happy for James Bond to bring them breakfast in bed. And if your husband does it instead of James Bond, well, that's fine.
Of course, you can imagine him doing it and bringing you up the rose and the breakfast and being very sweet and charming. Daniel Craig, you can imagine coming up with the rose and a gun under his pajamas and shooting you. That's the difference there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, he might kiss you meaningly when he says, hello, honey, I'm home. That would be okay.
Daniel Craig?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think he does romance, do you? Do you think?
I don't know. Maybe he's better at rough and tumble.
I'm sorry, that's very unfair to Daniel Craig. I'm saying as the character Bond, I think his Bond is so much rougher, so much more abrasive.
Well, he might be better at
he ain't a lover.
The outdoor activities, the exercise together,
That's
kind
right.
of the play dates.
Stuff on top of the sugarloaf, yeah.
Play dates with Daniel Craig.
Play dates, okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
I think a lot of women would go for that.
Yeah, absolutely, and myself included in that. They're talking about how to make the perfect breakfast in bed, and is when they've quoted Pierce Brosnan, and they're saying timing is everything. And I think this is very funny because I have an ex-boyfriend who was like this. It's that thing of, special occasions. We've talked about that, the whole thing of not necessarily on birthdays and anniversaries, although those are very nice, but surprise your lover every now and then with spontaneous generosity. And that you have to choose your moment carefully. It's all very well planning to wake them with a kiss, Sleeping Beauty style. But if your partner's the sort who needs their beauty sleep, it could end very grumpily. So the whole thing is that if you're an early riser who has usually completed a couple of triathlons before dawn, but your lover is not, wait for their normal waking hour to surprise them. You don't want to burst into the bedroom, wake them up, and have them clock you in the face or be really grumpy.
Well, it's the difference between you kissing Sleeping Beauty and waking her and kissing the Wicked Witch of the West. You really want Beauty to wake up. You don't want the witch.
So the whole thing is that, you don't want to open the blinds and, show them what a bright sunny day it is at 7 a.m. when they've been...
While you're all scrubbed and everything and she's falling apart.
They're exhausted and shattered.
With the hair going west.
Yeah, and they were dreaming of sleeping until 11. So, it's important that... Again, also, if you're trying to surprise your partner who wakes up early, then you have to wake up early to surprise them. So you have to be in tune with their normal hour. And I had a boyfriend who always, woke up at the crack of dawn in college. And it drove me insane because it was just literally...
Would you do loads of, moving around,
Absolutely.
making noise, washing, yeah. Making noise, whistling, putting on the radio, now going down to the bathroom, now going down to the kitchen, more noise, hoping to wake you up.
And also, are you still asleep? Are you going to be sleeping for much longer?
Yeah.
And, my response was usually, yes, knock yourself. Why don't you knock yourself out? Like, why don't you go off and do something? Leave me out of it. So, it probably did kill a lot of our, couple activities because we were in completely different time zones. But I think it's very important if you want brownie points to get timing right. Yeah, absolutely. And the menu, they're sort of, they're talking about... There's no point in you serving your own favorite breakfast. Serve theirs. So whether it's a full Irish or waffle smothered in whipped cream and strawberries, make sure it's something that they're really going to be thrilled with.
Both of those sound good.
Yeah, don't they? And things like,
unfortunately.
Whether or not you choose fresh fruit juice or champagne is also depending on your partner. And this is really important. I think that this is a really something that people forget. Don't abandon your partner. If you've gone to the effort of bringing your wife or your husband breakfast in bed, don't start doing the chores downstairs then and leaving them to themselves, because after a while you might kind of feel a bit stupid up there and you're like, well, I can hear them crashing and banging downstairs and I suppose I better get up. And then what's the point in making a romantic gesture if you're not going to join them? So even if you're not having breakfast with them, even if you've already had breakfast, sit beside them in the bed, snuggle up, put some nice music on a CD player, or, read
porn or something.
Whatever it is, and decide whether or not you want to show them.
Oh, look what's in the CD player. Look, it's the DVD. Anyway, but can I just say, I have a pal, right? Now, this guy's very well-meaning and would occasionally make the breakfast a bit. But his whole thing is that he brings up, like, alcohol in the morning is for two groups of people. Alcoholics and people in a honeymoon suite, right?
Yes.
Okay. It doesn't necessarily... Bucks fizz... And he's recently admitted that the idea is to pour the champagne into her and to get her jiggy before 10
Hoping
o'clock
for
in the morning.
a bit of l'amour. Yeah.
And that actually doesn't work, guys, at all.
No.
So don't do it.
Not if you have loads of kids' runs to do and errands to do and other things to do. So that's the thing. It's like...
So you don't want your missus pissed, at 10 in the morning. It's not good.
No, unless you're taking a city break, unless you're present for Valentine's Day, and this gets me to the 10 gifts, is a weekend getaway for the two of you without the kids, whether it be down the country or to Paris, Venice, Rome, Santorini, any of the wonderful cities of the world.
Where would be the ultimate love destination for you?
Well, no, it's interesting. I heard Catherine Thomas say the other day she thought St. Petersburg at this time of year was a top spot, and I thought, I've never thought of going there. Maybe I will, although now I'm kind of worried that half the country is going to be going there since she's mentioned it. And something about Patty's on tour, when you're going for a romantic break.
St. Petersburg. You see, what I'm always afraid of, those kind of destinations that you go there and the architecture is magnificent, the ambience is absolutely fabulous, and the food's crap and everything else is crap, and there's no electric light bulbs and there's no stopper in the sink. And
that's very glass half full, Gerry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glass half watched being only filled up half. Experienced.
Possibly so. I don't know. I thought that sounds interesting, and it's something different.
Michael Palin travelled all of the former Soviet Union and could not find one single hotel that had a stopper for the bath.
Really? That's funny. Oh, yeah, they don't want you to waste the water, the hot water particularly. Well, I mean, the obvious ones, Paris, New York, Venice, Sydney, Australia.
Venice is a good one. Venice is a good one.
Venice, people
even
say...
at this time of the year in the cold. Beautiful.
Absolutely. I know so many people that said to me, you'll be disappointed when you go to Venice. It's so overrated. It is not overrated. I couldn't speak. I was aghast for how beautiful it was. And I want to go back over and over and over again. They also say Bruges in Belgium, Edinburgh, Scotland, Florence, Italy, I agree, Granada in Spain, I have not been, Lisbon in Portugal, London, England, can be good fun, Moscow, Prague, Rome, and Vienna. Now, Vienna actually is one that, just because of the song, I'm curious.
Vienna's a beautiful, beautiful city.
I haven't been.
I think you'd love it. It's almost overpowering in terms of the architecture. I mean, if you like that kind of thing, some people are moved by that, others are not.
But the thing is, it's all about just, I think
about getting that right, figuring out what the other person's going to enjoy. Do they want to be secreted away in some beautiful rural backwater, or do they want to be in the depths of some fabulous European, architectural gem? I mean, you have to figure those things out.
Are they an activity?
Or is shopping your plan?
Yeah, are they an activity person, or do they? And if they are, well, then maybe you want to go somewhere where there's loads to do, or if they're a foodie person, you want to know that there's, kick-ass restaurants about the place. But also, I think the thing is that if there's somebody who the thing that they'd most like from running around all week with the kids or with work being really stressful is to sleep in and stay in bed and read the papers and just do nothing, well then go on a spa retreat or a hotel retreat where you splurge on the hotel room rather than anything else because you don't plan on leaving it much.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
That's great.
It's what Catherine Thomas actually called a riding and reading holiday.
Really? Good on her.
The Maldives apparently is very good.
Because there's something about reading the newspaper in bed together and
absolutely
joking over who gets what section first.
Absolutely.
And,
I think that sounds good. Writing a love poem, that also seems to be a part of the advice the book gives us.
I think that's really sweet. I don't know that everybody could pull it off. And I have to admit, I don't know. I feel
this is writing your own love poem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or an original verse, written specifically for and dedicated to your lover. Well, they give you tips and everything on it, you know, from doing the sort of, if you're not sort of good at this or you haven't done it before, they talk about doing an acrostic poem, which is when you use the first letter of a word. So either you could do Gerry, Gerry, or love, Love, and then do something for each one. So they've done love as an example. Little did I know when we first met that you were my one, and one is the second line, which is the O, the one above all others. You are more valuable to me than all the riches in the world, more essential to my living than food. Now, that wouldn't make me buckle to the ground, I have to say, but the instruction is there and the sentiment is there.
Final question, since you raised the issue, what would make you buckle to the ground?
I don't know. Anything kind of that feels a little bit different and spontaneous, and something that you get the feeling that they've thought of you in it. Once you feel like it's about pleasing you, then I think it's amazing. No matter how small it is, even if it's making somebody a CD compilation. But once they have you at heart, then 10 points, 2 thumbs up.
Thank you.
90 to 92. Gerry Ryan on 2FM.
Dave, good morning.
Morning, Gerry.
Dave, is that you, Dave?
It is.
Now, what happened to your wife, Dave?
Well, actually, just very briefly before I go into that, you were talking about this air show in Cashel.
Yeah, I mean, am I being unfair to the people of Cashel? Maybe they do. Maybe they deserve a chance of the Sky Fest.
Well, you see, the Cashel actually hosted a couple of years ago the Irish leg of the Red Bull air race.
Oh yes, which is a fantastic event.
Yeah, so maybe they figured, and I think
it's also a place where most Irish UFO sightings take place, I gather.
There could be something in the water.
Dave, you don't believe in the UFOs. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. Well, no, just to say that the weather. The weather was very bad that day, so I think they had to cancel quite a few of the races. So maybe they figured they'd give Cashel a second bite of the pie.
Were you there? Were you at it?
I wasn't. No, I was passing along the road that day, and I could see the whole.
Now, my memory of passing through Cashel, a beautiful area, fine people, decent, good people. Good morning to you all, every single one of you. We love you. I feel like J.K. Rowling. But is there enough of you there to justify what is essentially one of the biggest fireworks displays in Europe?
Well, bearing in mind that Cashel is on the main Dublin-Cork road, it's very centrally located. I would have thought it was an ideal place for people to commute. It's not that far from anywhere.
How long would it take you to get to Cashel from here?
From Dublin,
yeah.
less than 2 hours.
2 hours?
Less than 2 hours, yeah. I mean, if you figure, I mean...
Don't want to be one hell of a fireworks display to drive 2 hours for...
But if you were going to Punchestown and having to deal with the traffic, you'd be allowing 2 hours.
Yeah, that's true, yeah, but you could win something at Punchestown. You won't win anything at Skyfest.
I suppose.
All right, Dave, your wife.
Right. Yeah, my wife, my lovely wife.
Your gorgeous wife, your fabulous wife.
Gorgeous wife. My Valentine.
That's it.
Was to have taken her driving test yesterday.
Oh, I see.
And turned up for the driving test, and 15 minutes into the test, the tester said, I'm abandoning the test.
I'm abandoning the test
because of fog. Now, I don't understand it. Maybe I'm just foolish or something. But
was your wife having difficulty in the fog, or was it the examiner?
No, absolutely not. She had gone through, done everything right, and put on her fog lights because they'd been driving through patches of fog prior to having the test abandoned.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the test was abandoned. I just don't see the logic in this because. They were obviously driving in fog beforehand.
I suppose we all have to be able to drive in fog.
Well, that's the point, Gerry. I mean, if you had to go to work in
I drove through the fog this morning. Yeah,
and I drove through it for a lot of yesterday morning as well. And when she got back into the car after the test, she would have been driving in fog. And it just makes no sense.
And tell me this, Dave, because the last time we heard of a driving test being abandoned, wasn't it where the water was coming in because the window was open onto the examiner's seat and his bum was getting wet? I remember that. Now, did the examiner give her any more details? I mean, was he able to refer or allude to Section 7, subsection 5?
No, just said, I'm abandoning the test, and she would be contacted within the next few weeks to have
another test.
Well, not necessarily. I'm loath to believe that the test will happen as quickly as that. Because, I mean, it was a year since the...
and Dave, did your wife not say, actually I'm grand on the old fog there, what's the problem?
Well, no, and I wouldn't blame her for not doing that, because, again, at the end of the day, you don't want to antagonise your tester in any way, shape or form. Because you're
not allowed to speak to the tester, though. I mean, surely you could say, look, I'm grand with it, it's fine. I don't have if you're okay, I'm okay, let's continue.
Well, he obviously wasn't okay.
No, he wasn't okay. Do you think he was planking himself, maybe thought your wife was going to kill him?
No, I don't think so. They were still driving through a built-up area.
Yeah.
And, however thick the fog was...
Dave, when we had this discussion before with another listener regarding... the test being abandoned because of the wet seat and the tester's bottom getting wet. We couldn't, no matter how hard we tried, we could not figure out whether there was a set of guidelines in print or not regarding how the test was to be conducted, or indeed was there a set of protocols, more to the point, indicating when and how a test could be cancelled.
No, I think it's just arbitrary. I think
at the discretion of the tester.
I think very much, and you really have no comeback. And again, as I said,
she was definitely absolutely comfortable with it.
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like I said, she's sitting the test, but I mean. Under normal circumstances, she would have been driving to work under those conditions and is well used to it.
Yeah. All right, I'll tell you what we'll do. Now, I don't know whether we'll get an answer. We'll contact, I think it's the Department of the Environment, isn't it? Yes, I think it is, yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah,
and
I'd love to hear
we'll see, is there any sort of, are there guidelines and are there protocols that are actually in print regarding how... this sort of decision can be arrived at, and what's the what is the discretion not only of the tester but of the person being given the test, because I think it's wrong to presume that when you sit into the car to do your driving test that somehow the Constitution as it protects you is suspended. I think you still have the same rights as anybody else, and that must include being able to say, look, I'm is it okay, what's wrong here,
Well, I would have thought so, but it just the whole logic of
hold on, Shane wants to say something here. Shane, good morning.
Good morning, Gerry.
How are you?
I'm very well, mate. Driving through the fog, but parked at the moment.
I'm driving through the fog.
I think Dave's wife should absolutely contest that, because you're there to show the instructor your competency as a driver. Now, maybe he had a weak bladder problem or something, but if she's in a position to say, I feel confident and confident to drive, and the car is designed to deal with this particular type of hazard, surely doing a test is for us to be able to deal with potential hazards, be it slippery roads, oil spilled, diesel, and that.
That's a very good point. Yes. Is there a series of challenges that's put into the test that are there and they're sort of permanently there, like parking and this, but how they wouldn't be able to say, well, we should always try and see can they travel in fog, because you couldn't manufacture the fog. So
well, Gerry, there's two types of tests. I did the car test and the motorcycle test, and the motorcycle test is even more difficult because you're dealing with a lot more hazards on the road because you've only two wheels. And I had a situation where I was stuck at a junction, could not see out either side, traffic building up, and you have to be able to proceed only when it's safe. So I had to move into the yellow box. And you're not meant to enter the yellow box unless you've got the exit, obviously, unless you're staying in the box because you're turning right.
Yeah.
And I had to look out beyond to make sure the traffic was heavy, took my moment and went out, and I was thinking, this guy's going to fail me behind me. And he said, no, well done. You took action. I wasn't in a position to see your safety. You put yourself in a position to see your safety. Well done, you passed your test. So, I mean, because the guy...
Let's get that fella's name, because we'll all do the test with him then.
Well, Gerry, I can tell you the horror story. I had to drive to Cork to get the test.
Really?
Because I couldn't get a test in Dublin.
That's ridiculous. Here's a text. See what you both think of this. Texts on 51552. If she'd had an accident, they would have been sued. In the interest of safety, he did the right thing. The fog was bad for inexperienced drivers. That's baloney. Why would she? Why, if she'd had an accident, they would have been sued. She could have an accident without fog.
You know what I mean? Like,
That makes no sense.
Anything,
That's stupid, that is.
When I applied for my test for the motorcycle, because I had to do it again because my last one lapsed, they sent me a date after giving me the 1 year third license. They sent me a date 56 weeks later. Say that we'll be able to give you a driving test after a month after your last license will have expired.
That's ridiculous.
Splendid, isn't it?
It really just makes no sense. I mean, in the 15 minutes that she'd already undergone
Had she performed many of the tests? Had she?
I mean, she'd already crossed over 2 main roads.
All right, look, leave it with us and we'll go and try and find out for you what, in fact, is the protocol. I have a funny feeling that you're right, actually, Dave, that it probably is at the absolute discretion of the tester. Good luck, gentlemen. Thank you very much indeed. Fran, good morning.
Good morning.
Very good. You're from Fermoy. You think it's what?
No, you were talking about the cashel and the firework display that was too far out.
Oh, I was
Dublin.
talking about Skyfest and the fireworks display as part of St. Patrick's Festival, which is a great festival and always very entertaining, and we're great supporters of it here in the Ryan Show. But I was just thinking out loud that maybe Cashel is a bit far out for the fireworks display.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's very Dublin, isn't it? That's a real Dublin,
That's
Jackie.
a real Dublin, yes. And for the rest of the people that live, elsewhere in the country, we normally would have to travel to Dublin to see any great show or any great concert. So if
But is that not the way it should be, though?
Well, I think the capital of Ireland is Cork.
Oh, for God's sake! Of course, it's the capital. Of course.
But I don't think it's any big deal. It's just that it's nice to have something down here.
No, but all I'm saying is that it's such a huge. And I mean, by the way, it's a fabulous location, and it'll look fantastic.
Exactly.
I mean, is there a large population down there? Do you think people will travel? I mean, will you travel up from Fermoy?
Well, I would travel there a lot quicker than I would to Dublin.
Oh, I suppose that's true, yeah. You're not originally from Fermoy, are you?
You don't think so?
No.
No, I was Spanish born, but I lived in the States for many years.
And you have a sort of, you have an East Coast accent, have you?
Yeah, Long Island.
Long Island, yeah.
Yeah. So that's all I wanted to say. It's nice to have something.
All right, well, what you've
here.
done is it's a good wrist slapping exercise and reminded me that there are more things to Ireland than Dublin.
Dublin, exactly.
Absolutely. We're like that, though, we the Dubliners, aren't we?
I think so.
Yeah. We're cocky, we're arrogant.
No, you're not.
We're unhygienic as well.
We just have to remind you once in a while that there is the rest of Ireland.
There is life
still here.
outside the pale.
Exactly.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank
Bye.
you. Yeah, she's absolutely right. Yeah, of course, when anything is sort of, when anything takes place outside Dublin, I'm sure I can remember fellas going, a film festival in Galway, a film festival in Cork. Well, sure, who'll go to that? Do they have electricity? We do have a tendency, we Dubliners, to think that everything should centre around the Dublin area. What? Grants for people living in the west of Ireland? What would they need grants for? Yeah, we are selfish. I'm sorry. Mea culpa, mea culpa, mea. Kim, good morning.
Hi, Gerry.
Heather Mills, one of the papers is saying this morning that she's hoping to walk away with 134 million from this divorce. What do you think?
I think it's ridiculous. I do. I don't think she's entitled to any of his money, but I know she is entitled to some of it. Obviously, she's been married to him for only 4 years. As he was told, she was a gold digger in the first place. That's my opinion of her. But I think that's a bit too much out of his money that he's worked for 4 years of marriage to give away.
Yeah, I suppose it would be a different thing if it was Linda McCartney and Lord rest her soul if she was still alive, because she was a massive support.
Yeah.
In fact, even played in the band with him and was, I think, very largely responsible for giving him a whole new and indeed a fresh outlook on life after he left the Beatles, and was substantially responsible for keeping his head above water during very difficult times, and that, I have no doubt, resulted in him making lots of music and going on tour and making lots of money. So she would be entitled, in my opinion, Linda McCartney would have been entitled to 50% of it. But
not Heather Mills. Not for 4 years of marriage. And like you said, he made that money when he was with his wife, and before he was with his wife touring with the Beatles and selling records, albums for the Beatles. Like, he made millions from the Beatles and plus from his own music as well. So I don't think that 180 million, I think that that's too much.
And as a message for women, what do you think it says?
Sorry?
As a message for women, What do you think it says? We were talking about this morning, and I was saying, well, particularly for younger women, does this say that rich men are basically like the lotto? If you're lucky enough to get your hands on one, just stick with them for a year or two, get rid of them, then take all the money.
Well, that's a kind of a bad message to send out.
Kind of a bad message? Well, Jesus, I can't think of a worse message, to be honest.
Send out, yeah.
All right, Kim, thank you for that. Rosie, good morning to you. What do you think?
Well, I actually just texted in to say that I really don't understand why there's such a public hatred and a media hatred towards Heather when, I had actually admired her an awful lot before she met Paul because of, I'd seen her on the Late Late Show and I'd heard about her charity work and, the fact that she lost her leg to a complete accident. Some policeman ran over her leg, I think, or something on a motorbike. Yeah. And instead of moping in a wheelchair for the rest of her life, she sort of used her tragedy to go out, and for 20 years she got prosthetic limbs to children in the third world that had no chance of leading any kind of a life with no limb, because if you know, in the third world, if you're handicapped, you're finished. Nobody will even give you food, and they kick you out of your house.
She was very determined. There's no doubt about that.
And I actually liked, I don't mean any pun here, but she had lovely body language with people, and she had spoken to a child on the Late Late Show, and I loved the way she looked into the child's eyes, and she seemed to have a great rapport with people.
Should that get you 134 million from Paul McCartney, though?
But why does everyone hate her? I mean, she's only getting a proportion of his wealth. If he only had 40 quid, she'd probably get, £1.84. Do you know what I mean? He has 1.1 billion. She's going to be responsible for...
But do you think, though, that she should get 134 million, though?
I think that she should get a percentage, the same percentage of his money as I would get of my husband's money, or you would get off your wife would get off your money. I think
you see, in Ireland you'd get less because we have a different way of doing it. In Ireland, when you go into a divorce court, the first thing they look at is the children. Are the children going to be taken care of? And they have to be financially provided for. And then the parents come after that, effectively, and then there's an apportionment of the assets, and they deal with access.
I mean, I don't see why he's fighting so hard. I mean, why doesn't he just give it to her and stop all this instead of fighting?
Well, I suppose because he has spent...
Millions.
Well, I suppose... Yeah, but that's not it, though. But that's not the...
It is really, because... No, it is,
No, but that's
Gerry,
not the point, though. But you see, that's to completely misunderstand, a man, or indeed a woman, I suppose, who'd earned an awful lot of money. He earned that money. He earned it.
Well, he didn't earn it on his own, and if he hadn't, I actually don't like Paul McCartney very much.
Well, right, sorry, that explains this.
Well, I mean, there was kind of the Lennon camp and the McCartney camp, and I would be very firmly in the Lennon camp.
I know, but you can't say that Heather Mills should get 134 million because you don't like Paul McCartney.
No, but I just think that if he has 1.1 billion, I don't see what his problem is. She is the mother of his child. He fell in love with her. As far as I know, she didn't just up and leave him or anything. I mean, there was two parties involved in the split up, and what's he holding out for? He should have settled this last year, given her whatever she asked for in the very beginning, and not drag this out.
But the thing is, why should anybody, whether it's divorce or a civil action,
only because she has a child?
But why should anybody just give whatever the other person is asking for? You should only get...
Because he has so much, and just because I think it's what does it mean to him to lose 40 million? Nothing. It doesn't mean anything to him. He could... I don't understand why
it's
he's begrudging it.
It's 134
Yeah, but it wasn't that when they first started out.
I think it was 50% is what she was looking for the first time.
Well, I mean,
by the way, British courts do, if it's appropriate, British courts will give 50% of the assets.
Well, they're not. She's not getting 50%. She's not even getting 5%.
I know, there's no way that a British court would give her 50%. Yeah. She's only married.
But I mean,
to the
what was his problem? On day one, sitting down and saying okay, you can have 80 million or something. I mean, that isn't exorbitant compared to his wealth.
I'm fascinated though. What does it matter? He had to go and earn the money.
Well, he didn't do it on his own, Gerry. What? You could say that he happened to be one of the four. I know
the majority of Paul McCartney's money has been earned since he was in the Beatles.
Yeah, perhaps, but that, and I don't know. I'd
No,
say
it's
that's
not
from
perhaps.
the record sales.
No, it is in actual fact.
Yeah,
the
but is
majority
that record sales?
Record sales, merchandising,
Yeah.
Touring.
But it was the collective Beatles that made that an iconic brand. The records weren't made. His own records haven't made him a fortune. Although I did love Band on the Run, and I bought it, and I thought Jet was the greatest song on earth, and all that. I loved. I don't dislike Paul McCartney. I just don't understand.
You said you disliked him a minute ago.
Well, compared to he was kind of the not cool guy, wasn't he?
But God, I don't know whether that requires that you give away 134 million for
Why
not being
not
cool.
give it to her?
Well, because if that was the case, that would mean that every single man or woman in the world
would get that percentage. But that's a small percentage, Gerry. You have to look at his total wealth.
In fact, by English or British legal tradition, you could say that
she's getting very little.
That there'd be an argument for giving her more.
Yeah, and I mean, Gerry, if he had 200 million, she wouldn't be getting 130 million. Do you know what I mean?
Here's a text here. Hi, Gerry. I'm not a Paul fan either, but it's crazy to think that she should get that kind of money for 4 years of marriage. Sean doesn't feel sorry for Paul McCartney. You have to stay with us, Rosie. Sean, good morning.
Morning, Gerry.
Paul McCartney, 134 million is what... now, of course, that could be made up because at the moment...
nobody knows either.
Now that it's behind closed doors and the judges told them both, you two better shut your gobs, both of you, or I'll hold you in contempt of court. I think the judge is probably getting fed up with this circus at this moment in time as well.
And rightly so. I mean, the media should not be condemning her to the point that she's feeling so bad. And I mean, I don't care what she hasn't done anything wrong. She hasn't done anything that doesn't go on in any divorce.
No, but the point is, Rosie, the point is that the majority of people like Paul McCartney. You may not like him.
That's it. That is the only thing now. And I'm telling you, you've just hit the nail on the head there, Gerry.
But Rosie, like, most people like people because they're likeable.
Well, now...
It's not a sin.
Did you hear about the 15 tapes that... what's her name? The first wife, Linda McCartney, made. Did you hear about the 15 tapes that she made to her solicitor before she died? And she told him that she wanted these tapes. They were private meetings with her lawyer, and she made them, and there were 15 of them. And as soon as Heather started saying things about Paul put an injunction on those 15 tapes. And the lawyer came on air, I heard him on the radio, and he said... there's nothing to stop me from going to court and stating what I heard her saying while she was making those tapes. There might be an injunction against the recordings, but you can't put an injunction against my mind or my mouth, because I was actually present during the recording of those 15 tapes. Now, why did Paul McCartney put an injunction on those 15 tapes, and why have we never heard since from her lawyer?
You certainly don't like him anyway. Sean,
No, nobody's heard about these tapes. Why is that? Because he kept them under covers. And why did she make them? Why did he cover them up?
I think most of us, this is news to most of us, most of us understood that they had an extremely
No, there were those 15
marriage.
tapes, and I don't suppose that guy was lying when he said that. And then very soon he was quickly shut up too. This is when it first started.
Hold on, Sean just wants to speak for a second.
Just very simply, Gerry, I think this crystallises down to Paul McCartney is a very rich man. I had great time for the Beatles.
Yeah.
I've nothing for or against Paul McCartney. He's an exceptionally rich man. He entered this marriage with his eyes open.
And refused to take legal advice.
19-year-olds. And I think the hub of this, to me, crystallises again to the fact that he didn't feel the need for a prenuptial agreement.
Well, of course, I think we all know why that happened, wasn't it? This was, you actually said it, Rosie. This guy sort of rebounded into this marriage. It was a ridiculous, in my opinion, it was ludicrous. So soon after his wife died, for him to end up hooking up with this woman, he must have obviously been very needy. And you're right, Sean. I gather even hours before the marriage, there were lawyers saying to him, "You need, with the considerable fortune and the other interested parties that are involved here, including his own family, because they never liked her from day one, they said, you've got to do what all rich people do, male and female. You have to sign a prenuptial agreement."
It would be basic business acumen to do
and
it.
he wouldn't under any circumstances do it.
No, for worse, people marry. They're not teenagers. They've both been around the block. And
a prenup, even though I think it's probably, I think it's probably quite difficult to say to your intended, well, I want you to sign this. I mean, I think that's probably quite a difficult moment, but it'll be the metal of the marriage or not.
Well, they wouldn't be in the mess they're in. I don't.
I agree with you. I entirely agree with you. It would have been much clearer, and it would also have given Heather Mills an opportunity to say, "Well, you know something, I'm out of here.
I'm not marrying you."
Yeah, I'm out of here actually. And then you would
have found out if she ever. But I mean, I honestly don't think it was in her character. From what I knew of her, and I admired her before she met Paul McCartney, and I thought I didn't think it was bad that they were getting married. But I certainly didn't think that she was a money type person before she met him.
I don't think she was. I think
she was in love with him.
They appeared to have stars in their eyes.
Yeah,
they got
did.
married in Ireland. They came out to meet the media. It was
she
like
got married up in Castle Leslie. It was a fairy tale wedding.
And it was all over the media. But now the mess they're in would not. Is I believe self-created by Paul, and good luck to Heather Mills. I don't believe it should be out in the courts. I know it's private, it's in camera and so on, but it's all over the tabloids. I read looking at some papers yesterday where
I'm fairly certain a lot of what we're reading at the moment is utterly made up.
Of course,
it's always made up,
like a lot of things. But good luck to her. I don't think she should be vilified if he was naive enough to enter this marriage, even though it was on the rebound, without some sort of an arrangement, an exit mechanism, as they say in business. Good luck to her. I think it should settle. Sex and the City, that sitcom in New York, the episode where one of them got married and the mother didn't want her, and he offered her a prenup of X. She sat down with the mother and said, "No, I want Y." They shook hands on it, and they lived happily ever after.
Well, I'm going to finish this off with a piece of music from Paul McCartney, which I believe, Rosie and Sean, I believe will completely sum up how he's feeling at the moment. It's called "Maybe I'm Amazed."
Okay, thanks,
Good luck, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.